This is an NYY Sports Talk podcast, presented to you by Baseballism, a premium lifestyle apparel brand inspired by America's pastime. Baseballism is America's brand.
Now batting for the New York Yankees, the shortstop, number 2.
Welcome back. This is episode 118 of the NYYST Podcast, presented to you by Baseballism.com. I am your host, Christian. As always, I'm joined by my co-host, Chris.
You.
And Stat Guy Rye.
What up?
You all right?
I'm great.
You feeling good today?
He had to go
nice.
over the top with the open because of how upset you were with the closing.
Yeah, that makes me upset. I don't want to let you down.
Well, nobody wants Stat Guy Rye to be upset, but if you do not leave a 5-star rating and review of this show, Stat Guy Rye will be very, very upset.
Very upset.
Damn right.
So in a few moments, we're going to play back interview. Well, not really an interview, kind of like a sit down we did with Dan Federico of the Bronx to Bushville. Kind of break down the week that was with the Yankees. Miguel Andujar done for
the week of 2 games.
Yeah, the Miguel Andujar done for the year. He's going to have labrum surgery on Monday. Yankees pick up Kendrys Morales, and and what else are we talking about? Injuries, because that just seems to be.
And I got to give you credit where it's due, as much as it makes me nauseous. We talked about last episode. We talked about Andujar possibly being sent down, and you brought up, and we agreed that if he goes back to the IL, that's it, shut him down. And unfortunately, that's exactly what the Yankees did this week.
I just had that feeling that when we sat down and recorded on Sunday that he wasn't going to be on the team. I said that he was going to be sent to AAA, but even a little bit deeper than that, I just had a feeling that was it for him.
Do you think if Gio Urshela or even guys like DJ LeMahieu weren't here and performing the way they were, that maybe they would have taken a second stab at rehabbing that shoulder instead of just shutting him down that quickly?
I don't know, dude. He looks so bad, though.
Yeah, but how much of that really attributed to pain he was feeling, and how much of that was just them kind of bringing him back maybe a little too quickly?
Look, and again, this is something that we'll touch on with Dan. I don't know how much faith you have in the Yankees doctors and training staff right now, but every test he was put through, he kind of passed. So they felt he was at a point that he could play, and obviously he couldn't. And it's weird because I know we bring up Bart Scott on the show a lot, but today he said something like maybe he shouldn't have come back to the big leagues. He should have went right to AAA to do some more work. I mean, at a certain point, the guy was doing it. He was in his rehab games. Like, you're not going to really learn anything.
And this isn't a guy like Clint Frazier who's been up and down, and he's made a name for himself. Miguel Andujar has established himself as a Major League Baseball player. So I get it. I thought,
why would you activate him and put him in AAA? I mean, if they wanted to see if they were going to get anything from him, they did I guess you could say they did the right thing, and just unfortunately it didn't work out, and it sucks. I used the word disappointment last night, and it has nothing to do with Andujar, because and it's something we say all the time. This guy is the reason why Manny Machado's not a Yankee, and you want it to see him back up 2018 with another stellar 2019 and prove the Yankees and Brian Cashman right, that they made the right decision in sticking with Miguel Andujar over going with a mega contract in Manny Machado.
And I'll say this too, and not that I like Bart Scott, but I'm actually not ripping him when I say this. The guy clearly just doesn't know a lot about baseball, which is still shame on him. He runs a sports.
His analysis on football is like the
it's
best
very good,
I've heard.
But he probably doesn't even know that these guys have a certain time frame of a rehab stint, that there's only so long that
he could have played more rehab games. The Yankees
Right.
weren't close to the deadline. I believe it's 30 days
but
once
once
from when you
he's
started
feeling
rehab.
good and he's productive, That's it. I mean, you bring him back. As good as Gio Urshela has been, this is Miguel Andujar. This is a guy who, in my opinion, and a lot of Yankee fan opinions, and even fans across Major League Baseball, should have won Rookie of the Year last year. He's not a guy that, regardless of who took his spot.
When the Yankees had this first wild card clinched, Boone should have let him throw an inning. Should have let him throw an inning, and then he would have won Rookie of the Year.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
You're right. But he's a guy that you're not necessarily rushing him back, but when he's feeling good and he's hitting the ball, you want him back on your team.
It sucks. It does. There's no other way to put it. That you feel bad for him, that he's going to miss the season. And, you were kind of hoping that this would be another growth year for him there.
Sure.
It's unfortunate, but you know what? The Yankees just keep plugging along. They sweep the doubleheader yesterday. We're recording Thursday evening. They take 2 from the Orioles. They're now sitting 10 games over 500, which is
unbelievable.
There's no other. It's really mind-boggling how I know that they haven't played the best competition. They got swept by Arizona, who's a decent team. They got swept by Houston, who's probably the best team in the AL. Probably in Major League Baseball, but they took 2 or 3 from the Twins. Honestly, that should be considered a letdown when you don't sweep the Twins.
But what did they start the season when they had 6 losses? What was their record at that point? It was like what, 3-6, 2-6?
They were like 2-4 at one point, or 3-6. Did they lose their first 3 series? No, they didn't.
Yeah, they did.
No, they didn't.
Oh no,
they were 2-4. Then they swept. I want to say they swept Baltimore, and then they got swept, and then they lost 2 or 3. So they didn't start playing well again. This season turned on April 16th when the Red Sox came to town. The Yankees were 10-10. When Judge got hurt. And it's remarkable how well they're playing without him, because we said this last week, how much they played like crap when he went out of the lineup last year.
My point was going to be that not only has this team been friggin' phenomenal, but when they turned their season around, it was during the darkest days of all these guys, all these big names going down, where you thought in your head, this is it. I mean, this is it. This is when they crumble. This is when it spirals out of control. And it was the opposite.
It's funny. It's kind of been like that the last 4 seasons. They have a moment where you think the season's over, and then they turn it around. The one a few years ago was selling their entire team, and then all of a sudden they were better than they were. Judge went down last year. You thought that was going to, spell a lot of trouble.
Well, even
they kind of did, though. They were lucky that they built themselves up a nice cushion.
Yeah.
And you can really credit Stanton and Miguel Andujar during those days of no Judge for carrying this team. But it's just been all around. I mean, it seems like everyone's contributing, and for the most part, at least. And even guys like Tauchman, who is no longer with the team, he's down in AAA. But even guys like Tauchman, who have been garbage for the most part, seems to come up in big spots once in a while to win a ball game.
For being Mike Tauchman, he did a good job. I mean, you can't really hate on him.
And that's not looking at his overall numbers and what he did, which, by the way, Mike Tauchman played more Major League games this year than any other year in his career, and it feels like he was here for a week. But
he wasn't. He's been here since opening day.
I know, it's crazy. But you know what? For when he did step up, they were in big spots. You give credit to everyone all around.
Yeah, I mean, you just hope that it keeps going, because you never know. And we talk about this a lot with Dan, when the other shoe is going to drop, because you're playing with guys like Gio Urshela and Cameron Maybin and Domingo German. Is he for real now?
It's scary. It's still scary. You still have to have a little bit of reserved feelings on this team right now, because it's something that you weren't expecting, and it's a bunch of guys who aren't supposed to be playing to this potential.
Instead of keep referencing everything, can I say that right?
Referencing.
Forget it. Instead of keep bringing up everything that we're talking about with Dan, why don't we just get into it?
Head to the interview.
Good idea.
This interview is brought to you by baseballism.com. Make sure you check out baseballism.com. Use promo code NYYST15 for 15% off your order. Bringing you this interview with our buddy Dan Federico. Enjoy.
Within a game, a bond is made. He teaches his boy a game he played. 2 gloves, 1 ball, a day at the park, and the 2 play catch until it gets dark. And his boy does better than he thought he would. So the 2 played catch as long as they could. The boy and his friends, they play in the streets, tennis shoes and cans, no bases, no cleats. They hit home runs and they turn double plays. 1 great catch, and he's Willie Mays. But the sun starts to set in the old neighborhood, and they played in the streets as long as they could. The boy goes to school and plays for his team. He develops his craft and follows his dream. He has moments of glory, he has moments of shame, but they shape his life and they make his name. But he begins to get old, and it's understood. The boy played the game as long as he could. The boy, now a man, he has a son of his own, and he teaches his son a game he was shown. His son's first game, he sits in the stands. He yells out instruction, but it's not in his hands. And being late for the meeting was not in the plans, but a cheer for his son as long as he can. This is America's brand. This is baseballism. Do you believe in baseball?
All right, Dan Federico joining the NYYST podcast here on episode 118. You can follow Dan on Twitter at Dan J. Federico. Dan is from BronxToBushville.com. You can check out his work there. Dan's been a frequent guest of the show, but we haven't talked to him since what? Before the holidays?
Before the holiday. I was actually going to ask Dan, do you know
think it was
last time you were on?
I was, you know what, I was thinking about it today because I was going to say, man, it's been a while. I think it was when we were talking about the pick'ems for the outfield. That was the last time I was on.
We were doing our postseason shows with the Keep 'em Dump 'ems.
Jeez, too long.
Yeah,
it's been too long.
So, Dan, let's just
I'm glad to be back.
Let's just get this out of the way right now, okay? Because I want to trigger Chris early in the show.
Here we go.
How was your WrestleMania experience?
The WrestleMania experience was it was something. All right, so it was a long day, obviously, as you know. I mean, the show started. We got in the building at about 5. I was tailgating probably, I think, about 12:31. So I was there a long time. A great time. You know, it was a little long, as most people say, but I'm not a big. I'm a huge Giants fan. But I don't go to Giants games that often. I like to watch football from home. So I don't know the whole. Yeah, I don't know the whole like transportation issue, but it took us almost 3 hours to leave the stadium.
That's what I wanted to.
I didn't get.
I wanted to know if you were one of those people that got caught with the mass transit delays after the show was over.
Yeah, so it was foolish on our end. Well, we had somebody that was supposed to pick us up, ended up falling through, so we thought, you know, Uber would be fine. And yeah, it took us. I didn't get home until about 3:30. The show ended at. We got out of the building at like 12:30, so it was a long night waiting around, people freaking out everywhere. So, I mean, it was a great experience, but it did have some downfalls along the way. So
yeah, I got to ask you this. You tailgate for a few hours, right? You go to this 12-hour show, right? It's what, 7 hours, 7.5 hours?
7.5 hours.
Yeah, it was about 7.5 hours. Yeah.
Was it worth it?
You know what? I went to WrestleMania 29, which was the last time I was in MetLife. And ever since then, I really wanted to travel to go to WrestleMania, like as a vacation once a year. After this year, you know, I'm glad I did it. I'm happy. I don't have any regrets, but I don't think it's something I would go to. You know, next year's going to be in Tampa. I don't see myself going to Tampa or really going to another one unless I'm in the area or if it comes back to New Jersey. So,
what, WrestleMania Pirate Ship doesn't excite you next year?
You know what? WrestleMania the Pirate Ship sounds good, but I don't know about the 12-hour day is what's kind of getting me. So I think that's where it's going to stop for me. But, you know, if it goes back to MetLife, I'll be happy to go.
It's not going to be at the Trop, right? Because then
that's why it's called WrestleMania Pirate Ship, because
something like that. I don't think they sell tickets to the upper deck, so
it's going to be on an actual pirate.
Yeah, that would be a little bit of an issue there.
It's where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers play. That's why they're calling it WrestleMania Pirate Ship.
Okay. They'll probably incorporate those cannons.
Maybe that's where the Rays should play.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good point, Ryan. If you had to guess, Dan, what wrestler is getting shot out of a pirate cannon next year?
Oh my God!
It's got to be Kairi Sane. She's the Sky Pirate. That's her thing. So she's got to be the one that gets shot out of it.
Last night I was at the Yankee game, and they, you know how they do like the
You were at the game last night.
Yeah, I was there. The first game got over so quickly that they had to actually wait until the regularly scheduled start time of 6:30 to play the second game. But you know how they do like the in between inning entertainment where they ask the players like a random question. Well, it was who would make the best pro wrestler on the Yankees.
Oh, it's got to be Luke Voigt.
Yeah,
we've talked about it.
Luke Voigt. Actually, I was going to say Stanton, but Luke Voigt definitely. That's got to be the one.
Chapman could be a good.
You know who the overwhelming answer was?
Gardner.
Tommy Kahnle.
Wow, maybe old school Tommy Kahnle before he cut the Red Bulls out.
Because Dan, don't you remember when he first came over? He was coming out to Glorious, right? When he would take the mound.
Yeah, yep. When I went to opening day last year, when he came out, he had Glorious, and I think someone had Nakamura, but definitely his was Glorious. His was playing throughout the year, so that was pretty cool.
So speaking of yesterday, the Yankees took 2 from the Baltimore Orioles in rather quick fashion, 2 hours and 12 minutes in the opener. They won 5-3, and then I
think total, both games were just a little over 5 hours total.
Yeah, and then I think the second game was probably about 2.5 hours. They won 3-1. They used a long ball. Gleyber Torres had 3 home runs. I think they had They had 4 total in the first game.
Yeah,
Gleyber had 2. Cameron Maybin, and then
there was a lot of home runs back and forth that first game.
Yeah, well, aside from the Yankees taking the sweep of the doubleheader, there, the big news really I don't want to use tragic because tragedies are different than a guy missing a season, but in the realm of the Yankee universe, it is kind of tragic. Yankee tragedy. That's a good one. That Miguel Andujar is now going to miss the rest of the season. It's official. He's going to have the surgery. So Dan, what's your thoughts on this? The whole way it went down. What do you first? Let me ask you this: what do you expect from Miguel Andujar going forward? Is he still somebody you have high hopes for? Or you think the shoulder injuries kind of put a kibosh on his career, maybe?
Shoulder injuries are always affecting, especially baseball. I mean, you could tell it was affecting his swing. He didn't play the field, obviously, but that's another thing where, it could obviously hinder his growth at third base. It was a weird situation. I kind of thought when it first came out that it was either rehab or season-ending surgery. I was in the party of just get the season-ending surgery. If that's on the table, that should just be what it is. Get it done, the sooner the better, so he's ready to go next year. I understand them wanting him to come back. I mean, listen, he hit almost 300 last year. He almost had 30 home runs. He was probably the most consistent offensive player on the team that won 100 games a year ago. So he's somebody you want to keep in the lineup. But, I wasn't really surprised that they eventually opted for season-ending surgery.
Well, you know what? He's young, too, right now. I think that played a big role into wanting to rehab him. But you touched on a great point. I mean, my biggest concern moving forward, I think when a guy is as talented as he is at the plate, you're not too concerned there. But a guy who has notoriously struggled at third base is now going to miss a full season after the guy worked his ass off all off season. That's the biggest concern for me at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's something where, like you said, he worked hard all season. It was obviously a hot topic. Everybody was curious as to how he was going to do this year. And it's something that, we're going to have to look at even further. I mean, there was already talk of this year of him DHing a lot of the time with DJ LeMahieu on the roster. So a year behind now, trying to improve and just getting everyday reps at the position, which really, I mean, obviously I'm no baseball expert, but that's something that could only help is just playing there every day and just getting that repetition, trying to get a rhythm down. So yeah, that's going to be a big underrated part of this. Like, let alone losing him for the year. I understand that's going to be a hole in the lineup, but missing out on this whole year playing third base, possibly even, getting some time at first base, at least at practice. Not saying he would play in the game there this year, but just, expanding on his versatility a little bit, seeing what else he could do. All that goes out the window with him on the injured list for the entire year. So it's going to be something that I'm curious to see how it unfolds as he recovers.
I forget where I heard it mentioned earlier today, but somebody brought up the point that this could spell, even if he comes back and he can still be a great hitter, this could spell the end of Miguel Andujar as a third baseman. Now, on the Yankees, right, where does he fit in if he's not a third baseman? Giancarlo Stanton's probably going to be here for the long haul. I'm going to assume that going forward, as long as everybody's healthy, you're going to figure in the future it'll be Frazier, Hicks, and Judge in the outfield, with Stanton playing the majority of the games at DH. You know, Luke Voit was in a terrible slump, and then you saw him come out with 3 hits yesterday. So every time Voit gets, I don't want to go too far into a different area here, but every time Voit gets into a slump, but you kind of worry, like, is the bloom coming off the rose? But he had a good second game yesterday, so maybe he's correcting himself. So if Voit is your long-term answer at first base, what value does Miguel Andujar now have to the Yankees if he can't play third base anymore?
You know what? That's a great question, and I don't know if there is much value to him. I mean, obviously, you want that hitter in the lineup, regardless of if he struggles on defense. And Voit, I still believe he's real. His numbers in general in the minor leagues, he had, high on base percentage. He walked a lot. He saw a lot of pitches. Those things translated to the major leagues. The only thing he's really improved upon is power. So, I mean, he's really starting to put it all together. Like I said, I still think, he is an answer at first base. But, when you look at it that way, like you said, Giancarlo Stanton is locked up long-term. Now Hicks is locked up long-term. Judge is going nowhere. There's not a lot of, place for him to be. I'm in the belief that he could still, even now with the injury, still be at least a competent third baseman. I just feel like he has the tools on his side of athleticism. He has a strong arm. He's still young, as we say. So I still think he has some time and ability on his side. But going back to the point before, missing this whole year is really going to hurt him at that position. So, and for the future, it's hard to tell today. I feel like it's going to get a little clearer as the season goes on. As of right now, though, I think, you have to keep this guy on the roster one way or another.
Andujar's turning 25. Well, he just turned 24 earlier in March. Well, it's May already. Jesus, I don't even know what the hell month we're in.
I always mix up March and May, too.
Yeah, it's so he'll turn 25 before the start of next season. So, I mean, do you want to give up on him? And I always say it, Dan, I don't know if you agree with me. This is my way of thinking. The reason why Manny Machado is not a New York Yankee is Miguel Andujar. Now, so if you're thinking that way, and that's what Brian Cashman is thinking, let's just say, this kid is the reason why I didn't go out there and didn't feel a desperate need to sign Manny Machado. Now, does this injury, are you letting that sway your opinion to the other side where now maybe you're looking for a different answer at third base?
You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think so. I haven't really done much research into seeing how this specific injury has affected players. I would expect a full recovery, especially, in today's world where no real injury is that devastating unless you're talking about like maybe Achilles or something like that. But, I just think he, like you said, it was a good point with, the Yankees the Yankees didn't go after Machado because of Miguel Andujar. So we have to see where he is. We saw the type of player he was last year when he was fully healthy. He was that same caliber player in the minor leagues from, his days in single A all the way up until when he went to Scranton. So he has a lot of value. I mean, that's the thing. At time, as time went on, the defense and the emergence of Gleyber Torres last year, like I feel like he kind of got hidden a little bit almost because of other things overshadowing his offense. But like I said before, I mean, he was probably the most consistent offensive player from the beginning of the year to the end. So that's somebody I think they have to kind of keep up on and just not.
Considering Judge's injury last year, Andujar was their best offensive player from day one to the last day. Well, he didn't play the last day of the season.
Well,
so.
Not in the postseason.
Yeah, that's true.
But I got to say this, and I got to kind of stop us in our tracks here. I think it's a little ridiculous to be sitting here and talking about the Yankees just giving up on this guy as a third baseman or anything, because let's just say, hypothetically, they are thinking about trading him. The least that this team has to do at this point is get him back, get him healthy, and prove that he's the same guy. Because we just questioned it, speaking about it 2 minutes ago. Can he come back and be the same player? If anything, they got to at least give this guy another shot and build his value back up to prove that he is worth something if they even are going to trade him or give up on him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think a trade is in the question till at the very least maybe a trade deadline of 2020. I mean, because like you said, you have to have him come back. You have to see where he's at, see if he's fully healthy, then see if he could produce like he did, and then you could gauge the trade market. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts scenarios going on that we really just don't, you can't say at this point, just a day after the announcement that he's going to have season-ending surgery. So I'm also in the camp of I think you got to hang on to him. But, yeah, there's a lot of time before I think even a trade could be talked about.
So the reason why you're really not that you're not upset, because I don't want to
say you're not in panic mode.
You're not in panic mode. That's a good way to put it, is because of Gio Urshela. Now, Brian Cashman, I like to say Brian Cashman goes dumpster diving and he comes out with these gems. It's like he finds these things at the bottom of the trash that nobody wants or nobody even knows is there. And he brings them to the Yankees. He shines them up a little bit. And then all of a sudden these guys become, if not stars, competent Major League Baseball players.
Absolutely.
Think about Luke Voit, prime example number one. Even Cameron Maybin, he was nosing around Cleveland's dumpster, and he finds this guy, Cameron Maybin, who was basically given up on, and now he's shown that he can be a competent outfielder
and
again.
The best part is, not to cut you off, but the best part with the Voit thing is that not only did he go dumpster diving and polish Voit up, but he took our bottom of the barrel trash and polished them up a little bit to St. Louis and made that trade with Chase and Shreve.
But the whole point, and what I'm trying to get at here is, here we go, Gio Urshela, another guy that the Yankees, in 2018, they took a flyer on. They stuck him down in the minor leagues. He was with Toronto. He was actually, he was a starting, I don't know how many people remember that, but he was starting on that ALDS team that the Yankees beat in 2017
Absolutely.
in Cleveland.
Yep.
If you look at his career numbers, he was always a guy that never hit much, but he always had a rep as being a stellar glove guy. So when they made the move last year, you're like, okay, nice organizational depth, a guy that could come in and play competent defense. Who knew that he could hit like this? And so now you're not in full panic mode where you're like, oh, geez, the Yankees need to go get themselves a third baseman,
right?
Because Gio Urshela has done more than you could have ever hoped for. Now we're sitting here halfway through May. We played, 42 games this year? Can Gio Urshela keep this up for another 100 plus games? Or is the bloom of this rose, is the bloom of the rose going to go away? Or however
Beauty and the Beast.
However that phrase goes.
Yeah, just like Beauty.
You know what? When it comes to Gio, you have to ride the hot hand right now. Even that was the big reason why I said, just get Andujar's surgery done, because even when he's on the field, as we saw when he came back from the IL, he was, just not the same player, looked lost at the plate, just, didn't look right. You could see it every single at bat. So someone like Gio Urshela, I mean, again, like you guys said, dumpster diving type of guy, out of nowhere producing, kind of like a Luke Voit, Cashman did it with Aaron Hicks, Nathan Eovaldi, Brandon Drury, the list goes on and on. These guys have worked. Some have worked, some haven't. Right now, Gio Urshela is working, and you have to ride that hot hand.
Did you just say Brandon Drury?
That name is banned on this podcast.
No, not that it's banned, but that's another guy that Miguel Andujar has directly affected his career. In fact, Miguel Andujar got Brandon Drury deported last year
to Canada.
That's actually a fact, yes. See, but the thing is with Cashman, not to sidetrack, but and I'm a big Cashman fan, even though I know a lot of people are shouting him, but not everything he does is right. So that's why you got to throw in the Hicks and the DD for the stuff that's gone right. Then you go Eovaldi, Drury, where it's like, all right, those didn't work out. So, you got to have a little balance, in my opinion. So that's why I'm saying now with Gio, I don't know. I don't know how long this hot streak's going to last. You can't expect him to keep hitting 330 with a 385 on base percentage. I mean, I feel like that's unrealistic, especially because it's not like he's a rookie coming up. I mean, he's had a big league career. So, but at the same time, got to ride the hot hand. Stellar defensive player, like you stated, and that's something that's invaluable. I mean, especially watching Andujar last year, you can see what a difference a great third baseman makes on a team. So in that respect, even there, he's of value. So, but just ride the hot hand as long as you can, and just hopefully it lasts as long as the season goes.
And Dan, I don't think this is something obviously that you can answer, directly here, but just to kind of BS back and forth a little bit. As a GM, I put myself in Cashman's shoes here. We all know that Gio Urshela, like we just said, isn't known as an offensive guy. Now, the closer this team gets to October and the thicker this thing gets, pennant race wise, when do you make that move to say, okay, we're going to need a competent offensive third baseman here to stick into this lineup in order to make a true run at this? Do you wait for Gio Urshela to just kind of fall off, or do you start planning for this, before it's too late?
That's really interesting, and it's something that, it's kind of hard to answer only because the Yankees, they have the tools in their farm system they could still pretty much get, not anybody they want, obviously, but they could get a good enough player at third base if they'd like to. But then again, you also have, when Didi comes back eventually, and, all reports coming out that it could be sooner than later, which I don't know how true they are, but just basing off with what the Yankees are telling the media, I mean, now June's starting to look like some sort of target month, which would be crazy. But
Dan, I believe nothing regarding timelines. When I see a guy put the pinstripes on is when I believe that he's coming back.
But you know what? Just to further your point there, with Didi, we just saw it with Andujar. These guys feel healthy. They feel ready to come back. You can't rely on them being healthy.
It's a little bit different. The Yankees,
but they would rush to bring Andujar back. But Gio playing the way he was.
Yeah, but here's the difference between Andujar and Didi Gregorius. Didi Gregorius had surgery. He went through his rehab. So now the Yankees, they're at a point where it's scientific that this guy's going to be ready to come back. Where Andujar, the Yankees always were, in the corner, doing the sign of the cross, fingers and toes crossed that they could get through this with him, and they couldn't. So it is a little bit different with Didi as opposed to Andujar. But that was a good point that you were making, Dan, about Didi, because it triggered something in my brain.
DJ.
The Yankees, exactly, DJ.
We don't need to really make a move for another third baseman, even if Urshela falls off the face of the earth, which, it could likely happen, because honestly, how lucky are the Yankees going to get where they pick up two guys like Urshela and Voit and both become stars in the big leagues?
Right.
DJ LeMahieu can play third base blindfolded and he can win a Gold Glove. That's how good he is. And then if Didi comes back and he's even 80% of the player he was last year. So now your infield is LeMahieu, Didi. You slide Glaber back over to second, and Voit. You don't need to go out there and use assets to get yourself an infielder.
Yep, that was my point exactly when bringing up Didi. You have that wild card in DJ LeMahieu where he could play anywhere, fill in everywhere. So that was my point with the Didi. You could just slide. You could slide DJ to third, like you said, Glaber second. Didi obviously fills in at short. I know. I spoke to a scout who watched Gio Urshela, and he said he has some experience at second base that he did in the minors. I'm not sure about shortstop, but maybe you could make him the backup infielder. But then, you also have, who I've become a big fan of, is Thairo Estrada, who has a lot of versatility on defense, has some speed to him, can hit. So he could be that guy who's off the bench. I mean, that's why I don't think it's necessarily make or break with Gio. I think it's more so the conversation goes to, all right, if he does start to cool down, does it happen to coincide when Didi comes back, and then you could start to shuffle around the infield a little bit?
Hey, Estrada was the guy the Yankees really liked, and then he got shot last year, and then didn't he have another type of injury, his hip, or maybe he got shot in the hip. I don't know. I forget.
Yeah, he got shot in the hip. Yeah,
he got shot in the hip and never really fully recovered from it, or he got re-injured or something, because he really didn't play a lot of baseball last year.
Yeah, last year he had a down year, but consistently throughout his minor league career, he's always been somebody you could hit and always been somebody who can work their way around the field on defense.
And he's got double the home runs as Tyler Wade, so now he's jumped Tyler Wade on the depth chart.
Yeah, pretty much.
So the Yankees did make a move. They went out, and speaking of dumpster diving, they were sniffing around Oakland's trash. And they went and got themselves Kendrys Morales, who made his Yankees debut yesterday, and he reached base 3 times. So that kind of
2 walks and a hit. Right?
And a hit, which basically fits Kendrys Morales' profile there to be a guy that gets on base a lot. So, he was hitting 204 coming in. People, would what do you have, 1 home run? Everybody's, is he done? But, the Yankees, we know how they love the analytics. and how this team is basically run on that. So, they were looking at, from what I was reading, that his exit velo was still, near strong, near the top of the league, where they were thinking he was hitting in a lot of bad luck. So, they bring him in, you're not giving up anything for him. So it is worth a look. What's your thought on Kendrys Morales and how he's kind of going to fit into this team here going forward?
I thought it was, obviously not a great pickup or anything, but I thought he serves a purpose on the bench where, he gets Luke Voigt at first base, switch hitter, which is important. I mean, the Yankees really went towards, right-handed hitters this offseason who could hit the opposite way. So I think having someone in the middle of the lineup that can kind of break everything up is big. And just having a backup first baseman that, has a little more of a track record. I mean, when you have someone like Mike Ford doing it, there's a couple more question marks. It's his first time in the big leagues. How's he going to translate to this new pitching? We know what Kendrys Morales is. He's a switch-hitting first baseman, has some pop, has had some good years in the past. So I think players like him have value off the bench. So, if you need to give Luke Voigt a breather, or maybe he could fill in at DH if his power numbers are kind of picking up a little bit.
Well, I think he'll probably be the everyday DH for right now, right? You would figure at least get the bulk of the at-bats over there.
Yeah, I think he's going to get a decent amount of playing time now, like in this early going period he's with them.
Because with Hicks back now, we all love Gardy here, but I think he needs to take a little bit of a back seat now. And, you let Maben play. Who's here? Maben, Frazier. Yeah.
Another thing, too, with Morales is I'm a big believer in the intimidation factor within a lineup. And the Yankees right now, as well as they're playing, they don't have, with all these injuries, they don't really have a lot of guys in the middle of this order who scare a pitcher, that on any pitch he can take them deep. And when pitchers have a guy like Kendrys Morales up, especially in a park like Yankee Stadium, where there's a couple guys on and it's a tight game, it puts a little more pressure on, knowing that there's a guy at the plate with that in one swing of the bat can break the game open. I think Morales really brings that versatility to this lineup right now with all these injuries, which is why I think it was a pretty good pickup for them right now.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, like I said, I think his power numbers could be something that could flourish in Yankee Stadium. Obviously, the short porch, left-handed bat, and the same thing, like I said before as well, with the switch hitting tendencies. I mean, they need someone in that lineup to break things up. So I think he can. He's going to get some good talent. The Yankees, I'll see what they have in him. And, it's still early. If it doesn't work out, there's no repercussions of cutting him loose. It's kind of like, a win-win situation. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, that's it. It's over. So it's something that, something to keep an eye on. But, another one of those low-risk, high-reward situations that Cashman loves.
So back in the day, because you mentioned Nathan Eovaldi, there was kind of a throw-in into that trade when the Yankees acquired Nate Eovaldi from the then Florida Marlins. His name was Domingo German, and
the lottery ticket.
Brian Cashman, exactly. Brian Cashman always kind of referred to Domingo German as a lottery ticket, and sometimes you just crumble him up and throw him in the garbage, and sometimes you're running down the street screaming because you hit it big. And it took a couple years, but it looks like Brian Cashman, pun intended here, has cashed in on that lottery ticket. Domingo German, he's essentially taken Luis Severino's spot in the Yankee rotation. Now, we saw these stats earlier today. This is Sevy through 9 appearances. Well, we'll just say German's made 8 starts, 9 appearances, and this is through Sevy's 9 starts last year. So Sevy threw 9 starts last year, 6-1, 2.14 ERA, 185 batting average against, and his opposing batters were reaching base at a 238 clip. Now German in 2019's 8-1, 2.50, 1.79 batting average against, and his opponent's on base percentage is 241.
Unreal.
So is this hyperbole? Is this just saying something to say something? Is German now the ace of the New York Yankees?
He is pitching everything like an ace. I mean, if you had Severino penciled in for these numbers that German has right now, you would say, okay, he has another great first half where he could be in the Cy Young conversation, all-star conversation, all that good stuff. I mean, I tweeted out earlier today, German is he's in the top 5 in a lot of categories among all AL starters. I mean, he's first in wins, third in hits per 9, fourth in WHIP, 5th in ERA. He's up there with all the big names in those categories. He's been somebody who has been a stopper for the Yankees. I mean, he comes in when he pitches. Yesterday at the end when he was struggling a little bit in the 7th inning, I mean, he still locks down. He's still making pitches. He's throwing with high velocity. His curveball is just nasty. I mean, I think breaks like nothing I've seen before. So he's been everything the Yankees could wish for and more. So yes, I fully believe he's the ace of the staff. He's somebody even who's a must-watch type of pitcher. I mean, like I said before, his stuff is just great. It's been just unreal every start. So
did you see that little Rusev hop that he did when he came off the mound after the 7th inning?
Yeah, that was awesome. I like that. And that's another thing too. I mean, he's an emotional guy, and those are the guys that New Yorkers tend to pick up on and try to they love seeing that in their players. So I mean, like I said, he's been everything and more that the Yankees could have hoped for so far this year.
I don't know if he had the kid already, but I know he did a gender reveal after the season was over last year. And I'm not a father yet, or Herman. So I don't know how it would change. But you heard, I've read stories where Gary Sanchez said that he kind of needed to focus more in devote more to his craft once his daughter was born, because he didn't want to have that negative connotation around him once he had a kid. So maybe something like that has changed.
Absolutely could. I'll tell you
has changed Herman's life, where he's more focused now that he either has his kid. I mean, if it was at the end of the season, his wife's got to be ready to pop if she didn't already have the baby, right?
Yeah.
So
it could definitely change someone mentally, physically, everything.
Because we've always seen how good his stuff is. And then he would have that one inning, that lapse of concentration where he couldn't find the plate. He would get hit hard. And then, a guy with his stuff and how good he pitched at times last year should not have been, what do you have? An ERA? His ERA was well over 5 last year. The talent didn't match the numbers last year. And now finally it seems like he put it all together.
That's crazy to me. His ERA was over 5 last season?
Yep, it was 5.57 last year.
And you just don't think that it was that high, because like you just said, Christian, man, we saw him live against Seattle. And the guy was lights out, other than, he'd have those innings that he just exploded, but I didn't think it was that bad.
I think it was through the 4th inning last night. I was at the game last night and I looked up the scoreboard, and he threw 8 balls in the first 4 innings. Now, as the game went on, he tired a little bit and he was missing the zone, but I still think he only threw 20.
His first 26 pitches, he threw 2 balls.
That's crazy. That's a guy that is
insane.
That was a big bugaboo with him last year. Is he I don't know if he was afraid to come into the zone, or he didn't trust his stuff, but now it just seems like it's all coming together for him. So, like we said with Urshela, when do the petals fall off the rose? But do they with Herman, or is this who Domingo German is now? Is he finally putting it together? Is Brian Cashman now saying, yeah, that's my lottery ticket. I hit it big now. Is this the guy that Brian Cashman envisioned at the high point of his ceiling right now?
Well, you know what? I kind of go back to what you guys said. I mean, he always had the stuff. You see it when he would spot start or come in the bullpen. He always flashed it. He always did. It was just a matter of keeping it all together, keeping it consistent through an outing that he had. That's why coming into this year, I was of the thinking of, put this guy in the bullpen for an inning or two, kind of turn him into Betances, where you just let him loose, let him throw these pitches. And, man, I think he would be a stellar reliever. But like you guys were saying before, having a kid, something like that would just straighten someone out, kind of change their perspective on life. It seems like that's what happened with Domingo, and he seems to be, relating to everything very well. So there's no reason to even start thinking about moving on from him, even if he struggles for a little bit. Because, I mean, you have to assume he's going to come back down to earth a little bit, but like we've said, he's had the stuff in the past. He's shown his potential. So I think, it may be a little far-fetched, but I think this could be the type of pitcher he can be.
Dan, speaking of aces, our supposed ace, this was supposed to be the year that
Before we get into that, let me bring something else up while we're on the topic of Domingo German. Now, you saw 2 different ends of the spectrum yesterday in that doubleheader where Boone had a super quick hook.
Super quick, and Happ apparently was not happy about it.
On Jay Happ, but he let German work out of his own mess last night. What are your thoughts on that? Like, do you like him? Let's just take the Happ thing out of, because Happ really needs to be quiet. Even though I petitioned for him to come here, I like him and I think he's a very capable fourth starter, and that's where he should be on this Yankee staff. But, you know, like, let's keep the baseballs in the ballpark, and then maybe, you know, Aaron Boone doesn't need to come get you, because I think the next two guys coming up had hit him hard or hit home runs off him.
Trey Mancini,
who took him deep.
Nunez was coming up too.
Okay, so
guys who were hitting him hard.
It's his third time through the lineup where he
struggled. Are you, knowing how Boone and the Yankees use their bullpen, were you a little shocked last night that he let? I know that maybe they were a little compromised with the doubleheader, but he had Holder, he had Chad Green. There's guys he could have went to. I mean, are you a little surprised that he gave German that chance to get out of that inning like that?
You know what? I was surprised. Like you said, they did kind of. Not only the quick hook, but they were using all the big guns in the first game. Like, they were trying to clamp that down quick.
Which I had no issue with, because even though it's the Orioles, you got to lead. You got to win one of those games. So if you're in a position to win the first game, you go for the throat and you win it. And then whatever happens in game two happens. So I had no issue with that.
Oh, yeah. I'm the same here. I had no issue. I mean, last year, you know, the big word on Twitter was, the Yankees punt games. Last night, I mean, the first game, they proved that they were not trying to punt. They're trying to go for the win right there. And now, to go what you said before, I mean, having that confidence in German, I think that's huge, not only for German himself, showing that, you know, the team has confidence in you, but just, you know, as a whole for the team, saying, listen, he's been pitching like our ace. We're going to treat him like our ace. He's going to get into trouble. He's got to get out of it. He's got to do it at some point, and tonight's going to be the night, and he did just that. So I think that's huge for German's confidence.
I agree with you there. We want to get to a quick talk of Sevy. I don't know if you have any other German stuff you want to bring up, Christian, but you know, this was going to be a big year for Luis Severino. We thought going into the season he had a lot to prove. The question now, unfortunately, has become, will we even see this guy in 2019? I've been a big believer that if we do, it's not going to be until mid-end August, you know, through September.
Well, Cashman's already ruled him out through the All-Star break.
Right. So, I mean, at this point, Dan, in your opinion, does Sevy even appear in 2019? And if he does, can he make an impact on this rotation, on this team?
You know, I tweeted out a couple of days ago, I'm in the belief that I do not think we see Luis Severino this year. I don't think he's going to pitch. The injury, you know, he's had setbacks, like they've said, even from the beginning. I mean, I had one person tell me that it was a little fishy that he agreed to that extension, because he could have commanded way more, and it kind of seemed like he was settling, and that there could have been, not that there was any knowledge that there was, but it was just like maybe there's something going on there. And then what do you know? Shortly thereafter, after he signs the contract, he has a little bit of a setback, and it leads to where we are today. I'm in the belief that he's not going to pitch. They could obviously use him. I mean, first half last year he was a Cy Young candidate, so it'd be foolish to say that, you know, he wouldn't help. But then again, what Severino are you getting when he comes back? And that's a big question, because he's kind of been a Jekyll and Hyde type of pitcher where, you know, sometimes he looks like an ace, sometimes he looks like he can't be even a starter. So it's a curious conversation. I don't see him coming back personally, and I think they should just ride the hot hands. I mean, obviously, you don't know how long it's going to last. Like you said before, we're still in May, so there's still a ton more baseball to go. But that's why you have the trade market. You know, maybe someone else could emerge in the minor leagues. I mean, there's still going to be options there. So I think I would leave him out, let him just recover this year, and hopefully come back next year like he did the first half of last season.
Well, you're a guy that we've seen tweet and write about prospects before. So, you know, Jonathan Loaisiga, I don't know if he still is. He was ranked the number one Yankee prospect. He's shut down shoulder. They've just put him on a 60-day DL, so we might not even see him for the rest of the year. God only knows with the way that things are going this year. Is there somebody in the pipeline that could possibly make an impact on this team in the starting rotation this year?
The next person who's up, I mean, AAA is, if you look at their rotation, outside Chance Adams, they're pretty much a bunch of veterans who don't really have much of a future. I'd say outside maybe this season with a couple spot starts, but in AA, I mean, you have Albert Abreu, who the Yankees got in the Brian McCann trade, and he's somebody who I've been told by a scout who recently was in Trenton that said he has the best stuff in the system. He started to put it all together. Health has been a big issue with him, but he's been healthy this year. He's somebody who he tends to lean on his velocity so much to the point where it kind of hurts him, because then he starts just trying to throw too many fastballs and he starts getting hit. But he has plus curveball, plus changeup. He's starting to really put things together as a pitcher instead of being a thrower. And with the way the AAA rotation is set up, he's somebody who, if he starts to string together a few starts in AA that are quality, he could get moved up the pipeline really quick. So I think he's somebody to keep an eye on as a potential person, not anytime soon. I'd say, maybe after the All-Star break, a little more when Severino got called up his first time, which was, I think it was like August 1st, something towards, the end of the summer. I think he could be an option, but then again, that's also a little bit down the pipeline. So it's iffy, but if it's anybody, it's going to be Albert Abreu.
So we're under I saw that tweet where you said you didn't think you were going to see Sevy. You also said you didn't think you were going to see two other Yankees this year in Stanton and Judge. I heard Jack Curry say today, he was on with CNB, I believe, that he doesn't think Judge is coming back until after the All-Star break, which, I mean, let me just jump out the window now, because it's Aaron Judge. I mean,
the timeline was already July, so that's got to mean for Yankee timelines at least the end of July.
All right. We knew it was a significant pull, tear, whatever. I still think we'll see Judge at some point, because it's Aaron Judge. I can't imagine the Yankees
not believe.
I cannot believe Aaron Judge is the one guy I gotta, even if it's irrational, I have to hold out hope that he's coming back. Now, Giancarlo Stanton, on the other hand, because I did reply to your tweet and said I agree with you with 2 out of 3 guys. Every day that passes is another day where I grow more confident that we're not going to see Giancarlo Stanton play baseball for the Yankees again this year. What the hell is going on there? Boone said he's healed from the biceps. Now it's the shoulder. He sat down with Brian Hoke. You saw the transcript of it where he was basically speaking in hieroglyphics about Stan's shoulder. What is happening with Giancarlo Stanton? Did he get hit by a bus and the Yankees are just not telling anybody? Is he legally dead and we just don't know about it?
No.
That's my thing with this. It's like when I tweeted that out, I mean, it got more negative than positive, but the fact that they're just being so vague, it seems like it's a bicep, now shoulder, and things just keep changing and things keep evolving. It's like, what's the real diagnosis here? And clearly we're never going to find out, because we see now how the Yankees operate. They're not going to, be, as forthcoming on what's going on with their injuries.
After they screwed up the Aaron Judge timeline last year, you will never get a straight answer out of them ever again.
No, that's true. They just seem so, dead on just being as vague as possible, like Boone has been.
And I feel bad for Boone because, he's put in a bad position where, he doesn't have he doesn't have the information to convey to these people, and and what's he supposed to say? Can you find it, Ryan? Can you bring up exactly the transcript with him and Hoke from the other day? Oh, there it is. We'll read it. We'll read it later in the show. But it's crazy. Like every day with John Carl, he didn't even stand when he was in the clubhouse. What, last week, 2 weeks ago? He's
against Arizona.
Yeah, he was like, I got nothing for you.
Yeah. Thanks.
I just don't. I don't get it. I think there was a soundbite that I've been trying so hard to find. I can't find it on Twitter. He was speaking to the media. Maybe it was when he was in Arizona, but he made reference to his bicep popping when he swung.
I don't think he was in Arizona, because they came from San Francisco and he stayed out.
Supposed to be.
He stayed out there and he didn't come back to the team. It was when they came home from Arizona that.
Okay, yeah. Whenever it was, I don't remember. But when he was showing media, he had made reference to his bicep popping.
I didn't hear him say that. I didn't know about that.
He said popping, or I don't want to say he said exploding, but he said some sort of word that to me made it seem like it was a tear, which again, we don't know. But I still want to try and find that piece of media. But regardless, it's just something where I'm just getting a bad feeling. I mean, he hasn't resumed baseball activities. He's still, they're still, in the end, with all the saying, we just don't know, because they're never going to be forthcoming through the media of what's going on. So yeah, it's just it's a gut feeling. Like you said, it just feels that way as each day passes. It's just not going to happen.
On Memorial Day, it's Giancarlo Stanton bobblehead day, right?
And I cancel it.
And no, I still want it. I'm still going to the game. I still want the bobblehead.
Or just break off his which shoulder is it?
It doesn't matter. I think it's the right one, is it? Because it was the right shoulder. It was the right bicep.
Pass him out to all the kids.
Anyway, somebody asked me when he initially got injured, or said to me initially when he got injured, "Oh, he won't be back for his bobblehead day." And I'm like, "You're friggin' crazy." I mean, what did he get hurt? The first week of April? I was like, there's no way he's going to be out 2 months. And now we're sitting here May 16th, and I'm actually saying, like, I really don't even think we'll ever see him play again this year, which is ridiculous. So now it leads to the last thing we kind of want to bring up today is how much of this is all these injuries. I think the Yankees, I saw something last night, the Yankees have had more stints on the IL this year, 17, than losses, 16.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
So how much of this is bad luck, fluky things? Like, you can't, honestly, you can't blame anything at the training staff for what happened to Miguel Andujar. He tore his shoulder diving into third base. Now, you want to dive into they should have never let him come back from it? That's another story. But is this a bad training staff, bad doctors, or how much of this is a tribute to that versus just bad luck for the Yankees this year?
So I brought it up to another person who's kind of in the know of things about, what do you think this is? Is it the training staff? Is it, like you said, is it bad luck? And he was adamant on saying it was not the training staff. But at this point, I mean, when these people, like, half the time when the players are rehabbing, they're leading to other injuries. So what is going on? I don't know if it's personal workouts that are getting to these guys, or, it's kind of hard to say. But also, you have to remember, Michael Kay brought it up on a show a couple weeks ago, that I think it was maybe in 2014. I could be wrong. I'm not sure the year, but they fired their trainer. What was that? I'm sorry?
I thought you were going to bring up when they couldn't find the break in Teixeira's leg. They ran through like 2 MRIs or whatever, and they couldn't find it. And all of a sudden, there it is. I think that was the year they had Lance. In 2015,
there was a trainer that they let go of mid-season, and they realized that what he was doing was wrong, and they fired him. So that I feel like if it was a trainer staff, I don't think they would be that ignorant to just be like, no, it's not our guy. It's definitely not. No issues with him. So I want to lean towards bad luck, but I mean, it's starting to get a little iffy for me.
These knuckleheads on Twitter, they're like, want to call the Yankees cheap, and I'm cleaning it up because you're here, and I don't want you to see that side of me, Dan. So I use knuckleheads.
I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'm just going to say that.
They'd say the Yankees are cheap, but they put a lot of money into this payroll. Okay, they put a lot of money into the analytics department. They put a lot of money into on-field performance. I just like the people that are just like, oh, fire the training staff. Like, I can't imagine that this is where the Yankees are drawing the line of where they're spending money. And did you ever watch The Simpsons?
Not a big fan, but I have seen it.
You know who Dr. Nick Riviera is? The quack doctor? Yes. I just can't imagine that the Yankees have just hired Dr. Nick Riviera to run their medical department. Like, that's why I honestly, like,
I said this to you, though. You don't hire someone in the know of their incompetency, but after time and after
what's on their resume? Did they fake a resume?
No, but what I'm saying is,
you don't think that's what I'm saying? Like, Brian Cashman had to properly vet these guys.
But they might have to be reevaluated at this point to how well they're doing with this team.
Like, I know there's a lot. It's very suspicious because even in that interview earlier today, Jack Curry tweeted out that he thought that Hicks was going to be back for opening day because that's what Hicks told him, and he missed 40 games.
It's not the actual injuries that get me; it's the setbacks. It's the constant setbacks. Are guys coming back too soon?
That's what it is. It's every issue has been the setback. That's kind of what it is for me as well. It's always like the thing with Hicks. They first said Hicks was day to day when he first hurt his back. And then he was on a bus ride, and then his back started hurting a little, and it just.
What do you put him on the gut? See, that's the type of stuff that was going to upset me now. He's got a bad back. Why the hell is he riding a friggin' bus?
What do you want him to be on?
Segway? No, you don't take road trips in spring training with a bad back. First of all, he's a veteran. You just signed to a 7-year contract. He's telling you got a bad back. Why is he riding the friggin' bus?
What should he go on?
Stay in Tampa. Don't go on the road trips.
Lay down.
Now we set him
Rest
off.
your back.
Now we set him off.
There it is. That's what I was looking for.
Right? Am I wrong in saying that though, Dan? If he's got a bad back, why the hell you put him on a goddamn bus?
No, I do get that. It's understandable. It's just, I don't know.
Oh, let's take a 3-hour bus drive with a bad back. That sounds. See, like if somebody did that, that's friggin' stupid. Like who made that decision?
I don't know. It's been interesting with this whole. I'm actually a little on the verge of fascination with this, just because, like we said, it's the setbacks that are just getting me. Like, how did they start with one injury and then also, what happened with Severino? Cashman was saying one thing where no, he's fine, and then Severino saying no, I hurt this, and then a lot of seems like miscommunication in that whole department.
Did you hear about James Paxton now, where they're making a brace for him to wear when he pitches?
Yeah, that's great.
What the hell is this about now?
Great.
They need something
Here we go.
to support the MCL. And Paxton, I mean, come on. It was supposed to be like a 2-week thing to get the pain out, and now he needs a friggin' brace?
That's the thing. See, another thing with these setbacks.
I can't, like, now you guys set me off. Now I'm triggered.
Okay.
See, now I don't get, this is now what I don't understand. Like, why? What is preventing these guys from getting back on the field? Do we just have a team of guys with,
maybe, like I said last episode or the episode before, they're not being evaluated properly. Maybe that's the issue. I don't, but again, none of us here can speak directly for what is happening, because not only are we not in that clubhouse, but this is an area now of the Yankees that we are kept really in the dark for the most part, unless it's just strictly positive results that they're getting. If anyone's having any type of pain when they shouldn't be during a rehab, we are kept completely in the dark at this point.
All right, Dan, let me bring this up to you, because Chris and I got into a heated debate over this a few weeks ago. At the slightest little discomfort, are you just shutting a guy down now?
I didn't say that, Dan.
No, quiet.
I didn't say that.
I know you didn't.
So
but
don't put words in my mouth.
Okay.
You want me to call you a show? Okay.
Listen, but are we at this point now where we're at such bad luck with these injuries where a guy feels anything, a hangnail, he looked the wrong way, he's got a crink in his neck, we got to sit him down? I mean, because what are we at right now with these injuries? It seems like even you get a guy back, you lose another one. It's like I just don't know where to go right now. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know you didn't say it exactly, but that's where you were like, oh, got to evaluate these things properly. A guy feels something. So those the slightest little thing that you feel, you pull a guy out of a lineup now?
And Dan, before you answer the question, what I was saying was, especially with a starting pitcher who has 4 days in between starts, evaluate what's going on. Let's not just take a little discomfort and just, give it its standard rehab and then throw him back out there. If a guy's having discomfort, let's try and figure out what's going on, what needs to be done to prevent it from getting worse, and then see if maybe him skipping a start or so will help instead of, injuring it more. And now he's on the IL and getting custom made braces made for him that he's going to have to wear for the rest of his career.
Nobody said the rest of his career.
It seems like it's some sort of, I guess a serious precaution, but I like what you said. I mean, just give it a little bit of time. Something could happen in a game. It just maybe for that night, then they just need a little rest for a day, and then you kind of go back and reconvene instead of as soon as the game's over, boom, IL stint for James Paxton. I mean, sometimes it gets a lot of control, but again, they're probably, I guess the injuries are getting them. They're trying to play a little safe at the same time. So.
Yeah, it happened with Torres. When did he get hit by that pitch?
A couple of weeks ago.
No, it was against Tampa Bay. And Friday night's game?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of Gio Urshela
and Boone let him play, and then he didn't like the way he was throwing the ball Saturday night. He yanked him from the lineup on Sunday. So it's been one of those years. But as a Yankee fan, we'll wrap up with this. As a Yankee fan, they're 2 games off their pace from last year. Through 42 games, they were 28 and 14, and today they're 26 and 16. If we would have sat down and did a season preview, and I would have listed every single guy and the amount of time that they missed, would you ever in your wildest dreams think they'd be 10 games over 500 right now?
No, I mean, it's simply put, it's been the year of the other guys, is what I like to say, man. All these people, Domingo German, Gio Urshela, Tyro Estrada, Clint Frazier, you name it, these guys have been doing it. So, I mean, it's really picking up the slack. Cashman, you got to give him credit for not even necessarily finding these guys that have just been playing lights out, but just it seems like players who, put their head down, get the job done every day, and are, have that team mentality where just that next man up type of thing. So, I mean, the credit goes to the organization for kind of stringing things together with so many injuries. And, it's pretty much unbelievable what's going on right now.
All right, Dan, we want to thank you very much for spending part of your Thursday evening with us talking a little Yankee baseball as it's kind of been a little bit of a quiet week because we didn't play Monday and Tuesday. And that was another friggin' debacle, how they didn't know that they couldn't play Monday night.
And we really had the best grounds crew in baseball. So for that to happen, I was pretty shocked.
I'm blaming the soccer field. I'm sorry. I'm blaming the fact that there's a soccer field on Yankee Stadium for that.
That's fine.
So they didn't play Monday, Tuesday. We had a doubleheader yesterday where it really felt like they played 1 game instead of 2. They were so fast. And then we got another off day today. So kind of filling in the gaps here. Dan, we want to thank you very much for joining us. Follow Dan on Twitter at Dan J. Federico. You can find his musings at the Bronx to Bush. Or what's the website, Dan? I'll let you give it out.
It's BronxToBushville.com.
There you go. It's easier for you to say that.
And I got to say this, Dan, and I'm not blowing smoke because you're on the show. I've said it. Actually said it probably a month or so ago when you weren't even with us. Follow Dan on Twitter. This is a guy who's made a name for himself.
He's Twitter's number 1, okay?
Okay. He's broke a few big stories this year in the offseason. He's a guy, and Dan, I'll say it to you, you're a guy who sticks your neck out there and puts it all on the line, and someone who deserves the respect and the following. Absolutely give Dan a follow on Twitter. At Dan J. Federico, correct?
Yes, sir. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate it. Always love coming on with you guys. Always a pleasure. Let's just try to do one within a couple of a little less space than a few months like the last time. So I'd love to be on again.
We feel you, Dan. We get busy and Stat Guy Rye doesn't really like you. That's why he didn't say anything throughout the interview. So that's
just don't. All I ask is you guys don't forget about me.
No, we never forget about you. Real quick before you go, just give me the names. Who's winning the men and women's Money in the Bank ladder match on Sunday?
All right, sorry, Chris. For men, we got Andrade. I think he's going to win, even though he's in a weird position on SmackDown. But I really like his upside. And then I'm going to go with Ember Moon for the women's side.
Mandy.
Mandy as well. I like Mandy a lot. Same with the guys. I like Mustafa Ali a lot too. I like the young people hopefully getting this chance. It should be a good show. Looking forward to it. AJ and Seth Rollins should be awesome. So it should be a good time. But yeah, those are my 2 picks for this week.
All right, Dan, thank you very much. Follow Dan on Twitter at Dan J. Federico. Dan, thank you, and have a good night, buddy.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, fellas. You too. I'll talk to you guys soon, all right?
All right, big thank you to Dan. He spent about an hour with us there.
A little under an hour with us.
Pretty crazy. Lots, but you know what? Even though it wasn't much game action, there's still a lot to break down and digest with this team. Like we said, are we going to see Giancarlo Stanton this year? Are we going to see Luis Severino this year? What's going on with the training staff? Gio Urshela, breaking down. It's just a lot of stuff still going on with this team, and through it all, they keep winning.
And you know what? Dan was a great guest to have on, too, because he really has his finger on the pulse when it comes to younger guys who have spent some time in the minor leagues across Major League Baseball, really. So guys like Domingo German, Estrada, even Gio Urshela, who's been up and down with Cleveland and now here with the Yankees. Dan's a good guy to really listen to listen to his thoughts on what's going on with this team.
Been very complimentary of him. I would like.
I
to
have
know.
a lot. I gotta say, I truly mean. This.
I want to see your Venmo account.
I have a lot of respect for Dan Federico.
My Venmo? I'll give you my Venmo.
I want to see his Venmo.
I have a lot
account.
of respect for Dan Federico.
I bet you that Dan laid a few shekels in there to say nice things about him.
Because we've been on Twitter long enough now, and we've seen what people do to make a name for themselves. I have the utmost respect for Dan Federico because he does it the right way. He sticks his neck out there. I just said it during the interview. And if he's
is that what you heard? Would you preface your tweet by saying
my sources tell me that Dan Federico has some legitimate sources.
That was in 2013. The Yankees fired their strength and conditioning coach. Dan brought it up.
Yeah. That was what I was trying to. I forget what year it was. It was 2014 or 2015 when
Teixeira, yeah.
Can you look that up real quick, Rob?
What, with the leg or something?
Yeah, with the leg. Just type in.
That
Teixeira
was when they had
leg.
when they got Lance Berkman.
No,
that was earlier on.
I want to say that in that postseason, that was when that was 2015. Yeah. See, if that had happened this year, then it would just be like you would have to do something with the training staff. Because I was reading the story the other day. He had like 2 MRIs done. They couldn't find anything. And then he was hobbling around on crutches. And then all of a sudden, the third one was like, boop, there you broke your leg.
And I've heard from certain doctors too, though, that even just within the last couple of years, MRIs, X-rays have gotten so much better than they were just a few years ago. But still, how do you miss a fracture in a major league?
Because it was leg? In fairness to the Yankees doctors, if you do read the story a little bit, it wasn't a big fracture, and it can be hidden if the area is inflamed, which it was.
Which probably nowadays you don't miss. You probably don't miss it.
Who the hell knows? What Ryan's not going to miss is being quiet through an episode.
I think he kind of enjoyed it.
Did you?
Enjoy what? Being quiet?
Yeah. People barely heard from you today.
Well, let's talk.
Well, let's give Ryan a little spotlight here. We talked about it after we last recorded briefly via text. Game of Thrones.
Oh, man.
Disappointing.
Dude. Look, this is the show for me. All right. It was about to surpass Breaking Bad and The Wire, which are like my 1A, 1B favorite shows ever. And going into this year, I was worried because it was a 6-episode order. And I was like, man, I think it's going to be a little bit too rushed. And it's not good, guys. I don't know if I could even recommend it anymore to people.
That's how bad
it is. A show is only as good as it ends.
Because I can't watch, like Dexter, for instance. That was a show I never started because I checked on IMDb. I looked at the series finale. Every other episode's like an 8.5 out of 10. The finale, a 3 out of 10.
I can't see you say that, but like the Sopranos,
I'm not watching a show with
the Sopranos finale is not the greatest, and I know
that ruined the Sopranos for me. Their finale,
but everything up leading to that,
I know
you
dude.
can't. You
but
can't.
The most difficult part of a phenomenal show is concluding it the right way.
Just seemed they didn't have to do this. They could have. I know the original creator wanted 12 seasons, but the guys who did the HBO version, they just wanted to wrap it up and move on. And now they're going to go and direct the new trilogy of Star Wars.
And if, to be fair to Ryan, you want to give him a little spotlight, he can have his own segment every week if he would just do it.
Ryan on the farm.
Yeah,
can you put something together for Sunday?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
So thank you for listening to episode 118 of the NYYST podcast. Follow us on Twitter at NYY Sports Talk. Please follow our sponsors, Baseballism, at Baseballism. Go to baseballism.com. Use the code NYYST15 for 15% off your order. Go to NYYSportsTalk.com. Go to the fan shop. Get yourself some swag like the You Got Porched short.
Short. You got porch.
The short porch.
The short porch short.
Check us out on YouTube. Also, subscribe to the channel.
Yeah, watch us.
Watch us. Watch us.
Watch us.
Watch us talk to somebody on the phone.
Talk.
Yeah.
Watch us talk to each other.
Watch us talkman.
Watch us talkman. Talk.
Again, before we wrap up real quick, get into a conversation with somebody. I didn't understand why the Yankees were playing Mike Tauchman yesterday.
Because the entire team is injured.
Is that a new rule this year?
No, they did it last year.
Okay.
Not for nothing, but if you're going to play a guy twice in a doubleheader, it's going to be Mike Tauchman.
Right? Because you hate really to care what.
You hate to abuse a guy knowing that he's only going to be here a day, but you're not going to play Hicks 2 games. You're not going to play Gardy 2 games. Frazier's a guy that you're trying to limit defensively,
right?
So. And then that leaves Maben and Tauchman, who honestly, Maben's bat actually played well at Yankee Stadium. So
he's been doing a great job.
Yeah, I really like Cameron Maben.
Yeah,
I said it last week. I like the energy he brings to the team.
Yeah. I believe that he drove to Indianapolis to meet Scranton.
Tauchman did this.
After he got sent down, and then he went to go introduce himself to Jay Bells, the Real Riders manager, and Bell was like, "You got to go back to New York."
Well, I'm sure he was
minor league baseball.
It wasn't like it was the opposite where he was heading back to a AAA team. The kid was heading back to the major leagues,
and
I'm sure he was okay with
that's
it.
That's what's kind of shitty about the minor leagues is that they really kind of abuse these guys. We're like,
absolutely.
And Susan brought this up on the broadcast yesterday. When you're going from Scranton to New York, you're there in a heartbeat. But when you're going from New York to Scranton, you take every last minute that they give you. I think you have 48 hours to report after you get sent down, or 72, something like that. All right, so thank you for listening to episode 118. We'll be back Sunday after the Yankees conclude their series with the Rays. Are we going to game Saturday? Is that still on? I'm going to be there Sunday. Definitely.
You'll be there every game. Just assume Christian is at every home game at this point.
Did you sit in the Iron Throne?
No, I did not.
Did you see it?
No, I didn't. I saw the pictures. I lost a lot of respect for the Yankees, too, by the way.
The shirt looks pretty cool, though.
It's not even a Yankees branded shirt. It's a Game of Thrones branded shirt.
It has Yankees on it.
Yeah, but the logo.
Are you going to that game?
No, that's the only game this weekend I'm not going to. Even though there's.
Would you have given me the shirt if you went?
If my cousin went with me, yes. If he did not go with me, I would have had to given it to him.
That is messed up.
Yeah, that honestly.
I'll tell you that right now.
My feelings.
Why? You would have been number 2.
No, you'd be like me,
thanks.
right?
Number 2.
Number 2 and number 3.
Great.
3 years later. Actually, 3 years and a month to the day.
Maybe by next year, I'll be number 1.
3 years and a month to the day, this guy is still triggered over this.
What?
I'm triggered. He thinks I'm triggered.
That's what you
choose me as his best man.
All right, let's wrap this up. Thank you for listening. Stat Guy Rye.
Oh, yes.
Chris, say goodbye.